Hello and welcome to another episode of Fear and Spirits. Hi guys, thank you so much for coming in today to another episode of Fear and Spirits. Today we have an amazing show for you because we have such a prominent figure of the San Antonio art scene. He's a DJ, he's a singer, he's a podcaster, a blogger, a poet, anything, you name it, he is. Joaquín Muerte.
Yay! Hi.
Yay! So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, give us your socials, where people can follow you, if you have any projects coming up for the month of October.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Joaquin. Everybody knows me as Joaquín Muerte. I am a musician, a local musician. I'm a community organizer. I also work specifically on San Antonio's east side. You can find all the stuff that I do at Joaquín Muerte on Instagram and even at Joaquín Muerte on Facebook. I have a solo project where I'm working with 4 of my closest friends called Joaquin and the Glowliners. It's a lowrider soul, Chicano soul doo-wop, and we do a bunch of like Chicano music, and it's fun. Then I have a podcast that you can check out. I do interviews with people who have experienced extraterrestrial, paranormal, and cryptids, and I think the kind of like anything that's all in between, kind of very similar to this one. And it's called the Xican Vs Aliens podcast. It's spelled Xicanx versus aliens.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and post a link to your link tree so that people can find all of your social media and all of your stuff. And please go ahead and give them a follow.
Yeah, please. And then also, you can at any given time you can find me on the East Side organizing community. I'm always connecting people to resources, people with food, and people with healthcare. So like that's my thing. So
I do always like to ask people who come to the podcast, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a scaredy cat are you? Do you get scared easily? Do you not get scared easily?
So I have a good measurement. Now I'm just gonna be straight up. If it's a fake haunted house, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most scared, a fake haunted house, I'm a 10.
What?
I am so scared of fake haunted houses. I hate surprise jumps. I'm not scared of like the makeup part, but I do feel that like human beings are some of the most dangerous people in the world, and like they're like the most dangerous creatures. And so like when you put on a mask or when you put on makeup, people really do embody some of the things that they take. And so like I'm just like, are you playing? Are you kidding? Because you're getting really close to me.
You're being creepy.
I also had a really traumatic experience when I was a kid. So I grew up in Del Rio, and I grew up in a little area of Del Rio called San Felipe, which is like the barrio of Del Rio. And we used to, when growing up in the 80s, trick-or-treating was so different. It was like the whole community was out. Everybody was walking in the neighborhoods. It was like there wasn't a lot of dangers of cars. It was like that was a night that everybody decided to just walk the communities. And so we would walk the blocks of our community. And so, we would go from house to house, and then like you would get kind of nervous when you would see like somebody on like a weird rocking chair or something. And then like, there was this one scary house in my neighborhood where you had to walk through like a little kind of a graveyard, and then like you get to the end, and like there's a monster at the end, and then everybody runs, and that was it. Like you're watching everybody do this, but it's still your turn to go, right? And so when I got to the graveyard piece, the guy jumped out of the casket and he had a fake sword. It was like made out of wood or something, and he hit me. And I remember like I was so scared, but I was also in pain. And so I don't know if that traumatized me, but I was just like, so now I really avoid going to like places like 13th Floor or Fright Night. I don't do that. But on a scale from 1 to 10, when it comes to a real haunted house with real ghosts and real spirits and real things moving around, it's like a 1. I'm not scared at all. I love going into homes, into places where the like you might, when you walk in and you can almost immediately, you know how like some people say like, oh my God, I immediately, if you're probably experienced this, but some people walk into homes and they're just like, I could immediately sense the energy in here. Yeah. But like some people will be like, oh no, the energy's bad in here. For me, I'm like, kick the door in for those places. I love that. I love to explore those places.
Who goes there?
Yeah, for real. And I'm the type of person that's like whenever, like, for example, I've been to like big haunted places where like I got the opportunity to explore Jefferson High School, and I went with a group of students who were doing like they were trying to like, they wanted to do a scary podcast, so they invited me to kind of like help them do it for a class assignment. And so we got into the old auditorium, and the janitor was like, I know, right, there are spirits in here. Like I've seen, there's somebody that sits right in the middle right there, and like if you're lucky enough, you'll catch it. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And she said, but anyway, she was like, I'm scared. I don't want to do that. And I was just like, okay, do me a favor. I said, put me in the middle of this room, turn off all the lights. And so like, she's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. And so like the Jefferson Auditorium gets dark. Like, I mean, you can barely see your hand in front of your face dark when they close all the doors, and it was at nighttime, and she just goes whoosh, and sure enough, right in the middle, it seems like there's a person just sitting there like, and I was just like, oh, but like it didn't scare me. Like I'm kind of just like,
we're just like,
I'm like fascinated. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, yeah, like, oh, am I seeing that right? Like, is this a trick of? Yeah, but I wasn't like, like Scooby Doo or nothing, like
Scooby Doo.
I really enjoyed being in those. I really enjoyed being in those places. But if somebody were to jump scare me, like a real person were to jump scare me, I'd probably like pee my pants. Yeah, I'd probably really pee my pants. Okay, damn. There was one time that I almost peed my pants, and it was
Christ.
And it was the it was a scare that I got when I went to the Black Swan Inn. So I got really lucky one time, and I went into the Black Swan Inn, and they were telling me about all the little things. And then there's this one place where you go, where I guess like the guy who owned it like more recently, like he would call. Have you been there before?
No.
It is haunted, but like the one thing is that like some people experience it and some people don't. I've got very lucky and experienced it a lot. But so I go into this one room, and I had this like bottle of water with me, right? And it was hot that day, and like I remember like before I went into there, I like took like maybe 2 or 3 shots of like some vodka, and I was like nice and buzzed in there. And so like when I was being real brave, And so I went into this like room where you sit down on the couch, right? And then there's a mirror right here. And then there's a mirror that points into the same direction behind it. And so when you look into the mirrors, it looks like a long hallway, right? And then it's completely dark. I'm like in there, I'm sweating. And I'm just like, okay, like if there are any spirits in here, like I want to just like, can you like make a noise? Or like, can you like make something move? And I was just kind of sitting there like really quiet. And I was just like, nothing's happening. And then the bottle of water that I had just goes, it just like crushed. And people heard, I went like, yeah, like I yelled, and people heard it. And so people like, some guy, it was like some random dude opened the door, like, are you okay? And I was just like he could see, but I was like white, but it wasn't because whatever scared me. If there was if a spirit would have showed up, I don't know if it would have scared me, but it was the noise, the water, the noise. And I was like kind of like waiting for it, and it was like nothing happened. And when I let my little guard down, it went. So anyway, I literally was like, I like ran to the restroom to go pee because I almost like peed my pants.
Dude, that's crazy. I've never, I mean, I don't want to say never because I probably don't remember right now, but I've never had anything like that, like physical, just like in like a poltergeisty thing happen to me. That's crazy.
So when I first walked into the Black Swan Inn, I immediately felt the like energy. I was just like, I could, the way that I sense energy is really different in different places. But this time I felt as if something was pressing on my shoulders, and I got like dizzy, and I was kind of like, and I kind of went like, ooh, I was like, ooh, the energy is pretty heavy in here. And so then when I walked in, I was like a little inebriated already. And so when I walked in, I heard, when you walk in the Black Swan Inn this way, there's a front doors and you walk in, right? I walked into the side because the doors were locked in the front. And when I walked into the side, there's a big staircase. The staircase comes down right down to the entrance right there. And all I heard was like, like if something ran down. But I looked and went like this, like I kind of like, what? and it was nothing. It was just like I can hear it, but I couldn't see it. But but it all came at the same time. Like I felt the pressure, kind of went like woo, and then I heard that, and I was just like, okay, I'm here. Like obviously this place is already immediately like interacting with me, you know. And then I throughout the tour I experienced a lot of paranormal, and even the tour guys were just like, wow, it's heavy today, and I was just like, it never fails with me. Like it always ends up happening to me that I experience anywhere where a paranormal is, that I'll catch the experience, you know.
Damn. You're like, I cause that ghost sometimes.
Well, I have a story about that. I have a story about why.
Tell me to me.
Okay, so if you listen to my podcast, you've heard this story. But when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I saw like a being. I saw like a light being. The light being was in an emptied, abandoned house. And when I saw it, I was riding my bike around the block with my cousin's stuff. Mm-hmm. When I went to this house, I decided to take the bike trip alone. Everybody stayed back and they didn't want to play no more. So I was like, oh, I'm just going by myself. So when I took that corner, that little turn, I stopped at that house because it was like the haunted house. Mm-hmm. And I looked in the house, and there's like this big window in the house, and I could see like it looked like a person in there. So I kind of like stayed to like stare and look to see if I noticed it, and then that person turned and saw me. The one thing that I noticed about that person was that the person was glowing blue, right? It was like it had like a bluish kind of like a glow to it, like a light low glow. And then when it turned, at first I thought it was like a light play in my eyes. When it turned, I like freaked out, and I jumped on my bike. And when I jumped on my bike, I fell. When I fell, I remember getting right back up and going back home. Mm-hmm. When I got home, I had been gone for like 30 to 45 minutes, right? And like, I mean, I was literally just around the block, like not a big city block. Like I was in a little poor neighborhood block, right? So I got in trouble for being gone for so long. And I had this big old cut on my arm right here. You can still see like I have like the scar where it cut me open right here. Yeah. And after that, I started to experience like I guess there was like I guess I had experienced like some kind of lapse in time, but I began experiencing like night terrors like every night from that point. I started having like sleep paralysis, and I started kind of like experiencing like visits from owls, and like a lot of things started to change for me. I also like somebody had told me this like because I started to have a lot of anxiety, and I would take on people's energy. So I started to notice that like if I touched somebody, like I would almost immediately feel like a change in my head, or like something would feel wrong, you know.
And your vibe.
Yeah, like if somebody, for example, like if somebody was sad, like if I was to touch them, like I would feel sick. Oh. And so then I dealt with that all through my life. Like I've had that and dealt with that all my life. And so it just like, I started to experience paranormal on a regular basis in my own home. And then it started to happen that everywhere I went, if there was some kind of entity, I immediately could tell. And
your home before that was in like...
I don't remember it. I guess like the mark happened after I experienced that. I was about like 10 years old.
Damn, that's crazy.
But the one thing that I remember like when I was about like 15, me and my mom were like, I remember we would like do a lot of, so, you know, I grew up Native American, I grew up ceremonial Indian. And my mom we used to do like a ceremonial, like a little like prayers and stuff together where we would like light, you know, like incense and light sage or light copal and do like these ceremonies at home. And when we were doing some of those like four corner ceremonies just to kind of like to pray for, you know, the month to come or whatever, the season change. I started to notice like little things out of the corner of my eye, you know. And my mom says, you know, calm down. Like I see him too. Calm down. I see him too. And so like I started to like was wondering like why I had this all of a sudden started having this perspective at home. Yeah. Then my mother had an assumption that it was her mother visiting. And I never got to meet my grandmother, but I had seen her a lot in my dreams. And so I had never experienced her personality, but I knew her from my dreams. And so there was like this like kind of like it was kind of like a somewhat of a paranormal upbringing. Like I had a ghost in my house that we had a kind of a little relationship with, and sometimes it would move like old stuff. in the house. Like if there was like a like one of our china cabinets, it would like creak the china cabinet. And so then we would just kind of be like, grandma's here or something. We'd make little jokes like that. But my mom would also experience the candles. Like if we had candles lit in the home, like they would like, if there was energy in the house, we would feel the, like, and we'd be kind of like, like we observed that. Yeah, we would observe that, like the way we talked about earlier is that we would observe how the candles behaved, and we knew that, either something had changed or something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy because it's so funny that you say that about like you not having met your grandma, but you dream her. Because my little cousin Ozzy, he never met my grandma. My grandma actually passed away a month before he was born. And when he started talking, we had pictures of my grandma up or whatever. And when he started talking, he like pointed at her. I remember this very clearly because it was New Year's and he was barely starting to talk or whatever. And he was like, "Huela." Like he knew who she was, and none of us gave him context. Not that I know, but he knew who she was. Yeah. So that's crazy.
Well, I feel there's an alignment. I feel like when one person passes, another relative will either take on the spirit of that ancestor, or the ancestor will follow either one of us or follow one of our relatives. And so then there always will be they'll become a presence back in our lives through spirit, right? And like I think maybe that happened with me with my grandmother because she died and I was born. Oh. So I feel like I have a spiritual relationship with her that I just can't explain. Yeah. My dad talks about her so much too. Like my dad had a really beautiful relationship with my grandmother, and he talks about how she was so fun and we had such a good time. And I'm just like, I feel like I already know her. Aww. Yeah. Nice. It was cool.
Yeah. When my grandma passed away, and we hadn't talked about
what was her name?
Otilia. Yeah, she grew up in a rancho there in Zacatecas, Saltillo area.
Beautiful.
But yeah, they were from over there, and she was a witch. So my mom's house is haunted, like really haunted. But when she passed away, until we got together for her funeral, a bunch of us younger cousins got together, and we were like, "Oh yeah, I dreamt her, and she told me that I was gonna be okay, and that nobody could ever do anything to me because." Her I'm like summarizing this a lot, but her final move was to protect us against anything. And it was so weird because a lot of the things that we saw in that dream were very similar amongst our cousins. And that's why now, and I know this is not good of me to do, but that's why now I like to poke at paranormal stuff. And so far, nothing has happened to me. But that's why I'm starting to indulge and look at things, and I do want to go in and stay at haunted places. Like one of my plans for, if not this season, probably next season. But I want to do a live podcast at the Menger Hotel. You know how you can book the haunted rooms. I want to do stuff like that. So yeah,
I got to experience something at the Emily Morgan.
Ooh, but it wasn't. The Emily Morgan was haunted.
It was not intentional. It was so funny how it went down, right? And so I was playing a gig for a fraternity at the Emily Morgan, right? So I got hired to do that gig. So I was playing with a bunch of guys who are skeptical to any of this stuff. So I never talk about it with them. And whenever I do, they kind of always just here he goes. And I'm just like, whatever. So I was like, hey, but I was telling the guys this place is haunted, man. This place is haunted. Believe me, the spot has some experience. And the guy was just I don't believe in all that, man. So whatever. And so we start setting up our instruments and stuff, and we're hanging out, and we're they're having this. Obviously, people are showing up. So we didn't start till a certain hour, and so they said, okay, we're gonna give you guys a hotel room to change, and you guys can hang out there, to have some drinks and whatever before your gig. Cool. And so then I was like, well, I already finished loading my stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. We had to move y'all. And we're like, okay, cool. So then the guy was like, what room? And he says, oh, like whatever room. So I was like, okay. So then I'm like looking at my phone and I'm just like, what room was the most haunted in the Emily Morgan, right? And it was like the second floor or something like that. I don't remember if it was like the second floor or the fourth floor. If you're listening to this, fact check me. But it was like
down here.
Yeah, the link is right here. No, but like you can look it up, and on the Emily Morgan has this one room where people say that a woman like will come up on the balcony and like look through the window, and it's like 2 stories tall, right? And then supposedly this place is where a woman's body was found chopped up and then attempted to be flushed in the toilet.
What?
Right. So the Emily, a lot of the old plumbing and that kind of stuff still exists in these hotels, right? But so you go there and you can kind of sense that there's a timepiece, but then there's a lot of new stuff like new beds, new windows, that kind of stuff, and obviously AC, right? And so anyway, I look on the internet and I see that the room that one that's the most haunted is like 211 or something like that, right? And then so then I called that guy. I said, "Hey man, what room are we in?" He was like, "Oh, we got switched. We're in 211 now." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Bro, you moved me to the most haunted room in the Emily Morgan." And he goes, "Oh, dog, I don't believe." Yeah, he was like, "I don't believe in none of that stuff." And I was like, "Okay, cool, whatever." And then so like he was all like, "Hey, like I'm gonna stay the night because like if I like meet somebody like they stay the night with me and stuff." And I was like, "Oh well, what a bummer," because I was like, if not, I would have like stayed here to kind of like kind of catch the vibe. Yeah, but he was like, nah, man, I'm gonna take the room. And I was like, okay, cool. So we go and play the gig. Oh, before we play the gig, we're in the room like hanging out, like everybody's taking shots and they drinking their drinks. And then some of the guys are like, hey, we're gonna go out and like smoke a joint, right? And I was like, okay, cool. So they leave, right? So I'm like sitting in the room, and then I open the door. I say, hey, when you come back, knock. And they're like, code knock or what? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, tuk, tuk, tuk. I went like, tuk, 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 tuk. And they were just like, okay. And I was like, okay, so we got back. So then I closed the door, and they're like, they're walking away. And so then all I hear was like, knock, knock, knock. And I was just like, you're back already? Knock, knock, knock. And I was just like, what? So then I opened the door, and I'm opening the door, and these guys are walking away. Literally nobody's knocking at the door. And I was just like, oh crap. And so then I was just like, I immediately started noticing that I was like experiencing stuff, and I started to kind of feel like, I started to get nervous and was like, okay, I'm starting to feel like the energy here, And so then that night, that guy he ended up like not meeting anybody, and so he stayed in the room by himself, and he came to the house where we were at the next day because we all met up to eat breakfast and stuff. And he said, it's your fault, man. And I was like, why? And he was just like, I don't believe in all that stuff. And he goes, no, I don't know what it was last night. But he goes, somebody literally grabbed me by my feet and pulled me off the bed. And I was just like, are you serious? And he was all, yeah, I'm serious. And I was just like, you're lying. He's like, no, man. And he was like, I've never had a paranormal experience until you brought it up. And so he blamed me for it. But I'm like, Doc, that's the room. That's the room. And so like, the Emily Morgan is definitely one of those.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, it's creepy too.
In season 1, my cousin Diego, we're from the same witchy grandma. When she was sick, and we were little kids or whatever, just like watching my grandma and messing with her. And she was like, when I die, I'm gonna pull all y'all's feet or all y'all's legs or whatever. And so she would always say that. Always. It hasn't happened to me, thank God. But it happened to him.
Oh, really?
And at the time, because they had switched out beds or whatever, so they had gotten those like bunk beds, but one of them was like bigger than the other, but they hadn't built the top part yet. So they were both sleeping in one bed. And he said that he started seeing how his brother was going up, and he was like, what? And then because he was half asleep, he realized that he was actually going down, like moving down to the bed. But he said, I didn't feel anything grabbing me. I just felt like I was moving down the bed.
Kind of like scooting,
Yeah. But it was kind of like a slow, like a very low levitate down.
Yeah.
And he said that he started like trying to grab his brother and like moving him, And because he was scared, nothing would come out. And he was like trying to touch his brother. And these boys, anything could be happening. They do not wake up. And he's like, I don't even know how I woke up if somebody was grabbing my feet or like pulling me. But I woke up and he's like, I think it was grandma.
I mean, you know, she told him before, you know.
Yeah. But damn, that's crazy. Yeah, I do want to do that eventually. Because
I would say like if y'all are ever just chilling downtown, just pop in. Like, because the hotels, they allow the public to walk in those spaces. Just pop in, grab a sense of the energy, see what it feels like in there. The one thing that's like the most strangest part about it is that when you walk in, a lot of that history is marked. They mark, hey, this is, you know, this place is where blah, blah, blah happened. This is where that happened. Mm-hmm. But the architecture is already strange.
Yeah.
Like the way they build the walls, like the tile that they use on the floor, like that, all of that is, some of that stuff is original. They because of historical law, they don't change none of that stuff. So when you walk into those places, you're just kind of like, it's weird in here, you know? You'll get that sense immediately, you know?
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I grew up in Laredo. And so over there was a lot of like La Llorona because of the river. I never really heard anything, but I did get a subscriber story from Donna, Texas, about like a Llorona, because you know how they say like there's some spirits that become a Llorona or like something like that. But go watch that episode. It's probably out already. I'll link it down here. But yeah, and like I've heard here in San Antonio too that there are Llorona stories.
Yeah. I've got to talk to some people who've had some of those experiences. Most especially in the South Side area. The South Side is one of those places that experiences a lot of like nature energy, because it's like some of the most untouched parts of San Antonio. Like you can go far west, you can go far east. A lot of that is like become big city.
Yeah.
But you go to far south, and some of those places still have dark corners. Like if you go to like the Donkey Lady Bridge, they cleaned up around there, but you still go there and you can kind of sense that there's like some kind of like alone spaces, like dark, woodsy places where people don't walk in. If you ever go to the what's it called, the aqueducts, right? You go to the aqueducts. Like, so I did my first ever podcast was done at the aqueducts. Crazy energy there, dude. And it was crazy because I went with two guys who were kind of just like not really into the paranormal like I was, and we were all like, I mean, these guys were creeped out, and some of them were my cousins, and they're like gun carriers, you know. They carry like they carry like a gun, like they have like, you know, they're like those type of guys, right? And so like one of the guys was just like, we were walking, and then we started to hear like what we heard were like disembodied voices, like little like. And like he was just like, he kind of was like, he put it out, and he was just like, whoever's there, man. And I was just like, I'm like, dog, that's a voice. Like, that's not a person. That's a voice. Like, what you're hearing is the voice. But he couldn't comprehend that what he was experiencing might be a paranormal experience.
Yeah.
But he had a reaction to it.
He was living it.
Yeah, he was like, and he kind of like freaked out, and then so he pulled his gun out. We were kind of like, calm down, dog. But like, it was funny to see his reaction, because the rest of us were just kind of like, you know, we were getting the hairs were standing up, and we were getting the goosebumps, and the aqueducts are definitely a place where there's some crazy energy there.
You need to give me a list.
Let's go. I'm telling you, like, there's so much to do in this town, and San Antonio is one of those places that's like, any little corner you go to, because like, and you know this, right? San Antonio was like native ground. There was a lot of spiritual work happening here. There's a lot of history buried in the dirt. And so, you know, and then, you know, San Antonio was a cow town where people, you know, they were passing through here in the midst of fighting war. And then you have the Alamo, and all that energy sticks around, you know, the missions, all that energy sticks around, you know.
Well, we went to this bar. I don't think I've said the story on the podcast yet, but we went to this bar, and I think it's a hotel, and then there's like an underground bar. This is not my story. This is Steven's story. But it's, what was it called? I don't know. We call it Ghost Bar because this is what happened.
Oh, it's under the Ocho or something.
Oh, the Ocho?
Yeah, dude. Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, it's dark in there.
It's really spooky in there.
And so the restrooms are behind like these curtains so that, you know, they keep the light over there. And so you go into the restroom, and so he goes into the restroom, and what happened? You got locked in there?
Yeah, like someone locked me in.
Well, but there's no lock outside the door. And he was like unlocking the door, and he was like, and then it just worked. And he comes out and he's like, I think a ghost locked me in the restroom.
That whole place is creepy. That whole top, and you can take the elevators to the very top, and you can take them all the way down, because they have ghost tours that go in and out of there.
Ooh.
But it's creepy there. Mm-hmm. I've definitely had some. I walked in there one time and was just like, okay, energy is heavy here. I gotta come back. I didn't have time to be there.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh my God, this is spooky. You know, I was like, I would love to come back.
It's really nice. They're really nice there. The drinks were really good. The bartender's really nice, but it is dark.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, I would love to go back. They close early.
Oh, they do?
Or they do during the week.
Well, we were there pretty early, so
yeah, I think they close like at 11:30 or something. They don't. Yeah, so when you go there, it's like if you get there late, you're like they're like, hey, we're already you. Yeah.
The ghosts are here. You need to. You need
it's
to
ghost
leave.
bar time. You know, not human time.
Let's see, let me open it. Refill time. Nice.
We're gonna edit that, ghost.
No, we're gonna keep it.
I feel like there is a connection between native folks and the star, which a lot of native people believe that their creation story comes with the star people starting, and a lot of that it travels across native communities. A lot of what native people when they started talking about their understanding of like the stars, their connection with the stars, a lot of that had to do with like their version of like alternate universe. And so then like when you think about like alternate universe, you can that is the same way that people talk about like on another plane where paranormal things exist. So like, you know, I've heard this in many different types of like extraterrestrial conversations, is that extraterrestrials don't come they don't travel through like actual metal discs.
Yeah.
But what they're traveling through is a perceived time, a bent time. And so like what you're seeing is a possible perception of what they're traveling in. And what they're actually, so they're not even actually like breaking through, you know, like solar stuff or like breaking through ozone and Earth, you know, so that you may not see the saucers on fire, but they're actually bending time and space, and within that time and space, other versions of you exist, including ancestral remnants of you. So like those are like what people understand to be like paranormal existences. And so a lot of people believe that there's a connection between like ghosts and space, right?
Or like space / dimension.
Yeah. And so like a lot of the native people call them like planes of existence. Like on they would say like on this plane or on higher planes or like on the lower plane. But none of that ever meant bad or good. It just meant that people existed in another way. And so, you know, I feel like there is a way that they're connected. And you know, funny that story that I told you about me seeing that being, I met another person who had a similar experience. And they wrote a book about it and had a book published about it. I felt him and I was just like, hey, I had the same experience. And he said, what did you think? And I said, I thought I was visited by a ghost. And he said, well, I thought I was abducted by an alien. And I was just like, okay. So he was just like, you know, so we kind of were like living the same experience. Everything from dreams to sleep paralysis to the owls, everything. He grew up almost exactly, except I grew up Mexican and he grew up white. Wow. And so, like, in my like Chicano upbringing, the cultural things that assisted me to understand these things kept me, like, I would say, kept me safe in it. But the in his upbringing, he didn't have none of that, so he kind of like was like, I'm crazy, you know. And so that was that's for me is one of the big reasons why my podcast exists, because I started to meet other people who were like, I think I'm crazy, and I'm like, no, you're brown or you're black. You have this in your DNA. You just have to understand where it comes from. And so then I started to interview people, and not just to gather their stories, but to help them feel that they have a good place in their head.
Yeah, that's also what I intended with this one, because, well, I've explained this before. Because it's so big, it's such a humongous part of our culture, and you have a party. Y'all know Mexican parties. It gets to a point where the music starts coming down, everybody gathers around the fire, and we start dishing our scary stories. It's such a big part of our culture. And I listen to 1,000 Spanish podcasts that talk about this. They invite people, they tell their stories, and you can see their reactions in their body language, that it's so real. Like, they live this, they experience this. And my husband doesn't speak Spanish, so he cannot
relate.
He cannot experience this podcast with me. So that's why I started this, because I wanted him and other people here to know that, hey, this happens to a lot of people. This happens. You have a space here where you can come and tell your experiences. Yeah. And I definitely grew up. Well, I feel like on that same level that you're saying, right? Like, all brown and black and indigenous people have a storyteller aspect to them. And my father was like king, and his memory's a little like, his memory's not so good anymore, so he has a hard time remembering the stories. But man, when we were younger, he used to like scare the pants off of us, dude. And he was so good at telling those stories. He had these lechuza stories that he would tell us about growing up, and I got to experience the lechuza on 2 different times, but none of them were intended for me, so I didn't like. It wasn't like I wasn't like I was just kind of like, oh, like I was like, so that lechuza is going to somebody's house. But I did have some friends that experienced it where the lechuza was meant for them. And so, like, I don't know if your listeners understand the difference between lechuzas and the non-lechuzas, but like in the indigenous world, they're like brujos or witches or what nahuales, right? They would shapeshift into these animals. A lot of people turn the concept into, oh, this is an owl, like an owl, but actually in the older histories, the witches or brujos or brujas would shapeshift into birds. And they were these human-sized birds, because they didn't shapeshift into tiny birds. They would shapeshift into human-sized birds. And then they were, if there was it was a spell or a curse that was intended to somebody, they would go to those houses and sit there. They sit there on their roofs, or tap at their windows, or like make sounds in their homes, and people would basically go mad, right? Now a lot of people have been like, oh, there's an owl, it's a lechuza, and it's like that's not the original telling, right? So when I was growing up, my dad would tell the story about this guy who was a kid friend of his. And they used to play out in, so Del Rio, a lot like Laredo, Del Rio is like really dry. There's very, very, because it's on the border of Mexico and Texas. And so they would play in the parts of the neighborhoods where there was monte, exactly, monte. Like, you're walking around and there's like snake holes and there's giant tarantulas. It's just monte. It's like the desert. Right.
Yeah. And so they would run around there, and they said that they were flying a kite one time, and they said, okay, before it gets dark, you need to come home. So when you start reeling, we throw the kite out, you got to reel it back in before it gets dark. So supposedly my dad was like they were like tying string after string after string. So like they would have like these spools, and they would get these big old spools, and they would tie the string. They would make the kites out of newspaper, and then they would tie the string, and they were flying the kite, and they would let it go, and it was like one of those areas where there's no lines, it's Monte, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're throwing this kite, and then they would add more string, and they would put the string, and they would throw the kite, and then the kite was like really fly up there, and they would add more string, they would put another string, and the kite would go, so then they were like flying the kite real high in the sky, and at some point it went like, and it fell, right? So then my dad said that his friend was like, I'll go get it. And he's like, oh no, I'll go too. So like my dad was like kind of following behind him, like pulling the string, right? And then he said at some point, right, it started to get dark. Like it was like they were walking through the monte, tying the string and trying to get to the kite. At some point it got dark. And my dad said that he was like, we should probably go home, like just leave the kite, we'll come get it tomorrow. And the guy was like, no, I'm gonna go get it. My dad's talking about his kid friend, they're sort of their kids, mm-hmm. right? And so at some point, they're like, my dad's like, man, it's getting dark, I'm starting to get scared. And the guy's like, no, we're almost there. And so then they're like kind of like treading through the little monte, and it said like out of nowhere, my dad hears like a wah, wah, and like my dad's kid friend is like, they kind of both like look, and there's this like massive bird, and it grabs my dad's friend by the tip of his scalp like this, and it pulls him up. And my dad said that he was like screaming because this part of his skin was tearing open. And then he said that he picked my dad's friend up, and he like hooked him really high in the sky and like took him and he dropped him. My dad said he ran home, never saw his friend again, right? And so then like I was just like, well, what happened to your friend? And he said, let's take a drive. And I was just like, okay. So like we were like cruising through the neighborhood. Man, I'll tell you, San Felipe is not a big neighborhood. It's a small neighborhood, but it's one of those barrios that like you meet some of the strangest people there. So my dad takes me to like this little neighborhood where there's like it's just like a little, like it doesn't look like Monte, but it's like some of the houses are made of adobe in that community, right? Like the houses are adobe still. So my dad goes and knocks on the door. And the guy comes out, hey, ¿qué pasó, Raúl? And I was like, no, I want to introduce my son. So the guy comes out, hey, nice to meet you. Big old scar right here, dude. Big scar right here. And I was just like, like I think I was scared because I was just like, because man, my dad, man, I could see the story he was telling me. So like I never thought anything of it. I was just like, whatever. Like that was maybe he was making something up because my dad was really good at that. So one time when I got older, I was about like 20. We had already been drinking. Like living on the border, you started drinking when you were like...
That's what you do.
That's what you do. Yeah, you cross the border, you drink your beer, and you take a shot when you're like 14, 15 years old. I mean, I was in high school, we were already drinking,
There's no age restrictions over there.
Yeah.
It's imaginary.
Like if you could grow like a little mustache, you're an adult, right? And so anyway, we were coming home really late one night from like, hanging out, and we used to skateboard and drink. And then like, I remember we were just hanging out like on the porch, and we were just kind of like all buzzed out and just like talking, right? And all I hear was like this like it sounded like owls, right? Like owl screech. Mm-hmm. I was like, what the hell is that? And I looked up into the sky, and there was 3 giant birds, like giant blackbirds in formation, just flying over the house. And I was just like, what? Bro. And I remember the guy that I was with, I was like, dude, you see that? And we were just like, oh, crap. And I was like, bro, you got to leave. I'm going to go inside. And we broke that day, right? I keep telling people that story, right? And for the longest time, everybody was just like, sure. And so then like years later, I must have been like, so I'm 44. I must have been like 35, right? We threw this big party, and I was performing in Del Rio. I played some music out there, and we threw this big after party at my mom's house. And all my cousins came over, and we were getting tore up, man. We were like just drinking beers, and like people were like rolling joints after the joints, and it was fun. We're having a good old time. And then like I remember like I heard like kind of like a sound too. It was like, and I was just like, what? And I looked up, and sure enough, I see like almost the same exact birds, giant black birds. I remember telling my cousins that we were all hanging out. I said, look. And we all looked up. And then everybody was like, literally the whole room, the whole house, the backyard we were in, paused. Everybody was just like quiet. And then everybody looked and saw the birds pass. And everybody was just like later, dude. And the party was over, man.
Wow.
People were so freaked out because they hadn't seen anything that big. It was like 3 giant birds flying in formation.
Damn.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I kind of like say that I've seen the lechuza before. I can't say that I saw the details of the face. I just could say that the birds were massive. Like,
No, that's true because there's, I don't know if it's the same one. I need to do a little bit more research about nahuales and lechuza adjacent. But there's these, and I say there are two because their coats look different. That stop at my mom's house. There's one that usually sits by the light pole, and it's big. It's really big. And there's another one that sits in the back of the house. And we've seen her several times. We don't even mind it anymore because we knew that my grandma used to do a lot of witchcraft in our house. And mind you, she did a lot of cleansings of people, but still, like, you know,
my experience is that like when you introduce yourself into that world, you open yourself to it. And like, so like I don't do limpias. I can't do limpias because I feel like I absorb people's energy way too fast. I could absorb a person's energy from a hug or a handshake, and so like I can't even imagine like doing a whole limpia. And I have done them before, but like it's just way too much work for me, right? And there's so much that comes from it, like you get tired from holding people's energy, right? But something that I've learned was that like I went to a place in Florida where I got to meet these brujas, shamans from Detroit. And I got to go out there I used to work for the Southwest Workers Union, and I got to visit Florida doing a food sovereignty conference. And when I went out there, I met some witches, some shamans, right? They were black and they were from Detroit. They were well known in Detroit because they were water protectors. And they immediately were just like, "Who are you?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm from San Antonio. We're the group that's coming from San Antonio to talk about food sovereignty." And she's like, "No, but who are you?" And I'm just like, "What do you mean?" So she said, "When we're done with this meeting, I need to talk to you." And I was just like, "Okay." And I was like, "What did I do?"
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I kind of was just like, "I don't know." And so then she pulled me to the side and she said, "Who do you study under?" And I'm just like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I'm a shaman. I study under blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, I'm not a witch. I'm not a witch, but she sensed it.
I don't practice, yeah.
Yeah, but she sensed it. She said, "There's something about you." She said, and the reason that she knew it, she said, because there's an owl here with you. And I was just like, and so it helped me prove that, for me, it helped me prove, but I was like, where?
Like, ma'am, I don't know.
I was like, ma'am, I didn't bring it, right? I was like, I don't know. And then so like, we were like hanging out outside. We had put a little fire out and we hung out outside. And she was just like, all right, we were all hanging out. We had been talking. It was getting really late. And she said, "Okay, you guys, I have to go, good night." And it was good talking to y'all. Thanks for sharing your stories. And then when she got up, all I heard was like, "Ooh, ooh." And she says, "Nice to meet you too. Good night." And I was just like, myself, my mind was blown because like she kind of helped prove or help me like really
like open it a little bit more.
Like she was kind of like, dude, no way that I may, like I knew something. I kind of felt and I knew something, and so I always remember her. She was, I believe that she was for the work that she did protecting the water in Detroit, right? Because there was the poisoning of the water in Detroit. Yeah. She was a huge organizer of that advocate, and she stood up, but she was also a shaman, and she was hit by a car. She was hit by a car and she died. Her name was Charity. I think Charity Lewis, something like that. I'll share that with you, but she, very powerful woman. Very powerful woman. Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. One time, just going back to the owls, we used to rent a house when we had recently moved here to San Antonio, like the first, half a year. We started renting this house over there by the SeaWorld area, a little bit more down. And I think we were watching Attack on Titan. But we started talking about witchcraft or something like that. And then it sounded like it was a sound system inside our house. We just hear woo, right? Remember? We were just sitting in our couch in front of the TV, and we had pressed pause because I don't remember if I saw some sign or some rune or something, and I was like, oh, like the meme.
Yeah.
And I was telling Steven about nerding out about witchcraft stuff, and again, inside the house, and I was like, wait a minute, and immediately I felt dread inside my body, and I was like, what the fuck? What is going on? And I was like, shh. And again, and then it started being like more repetitive, like woo. And so I was like, what the hell is going on? And our dogs were like, they weren't barking, but they were like, and so we go to the backyard. It was 2 owls. First they were in one tree. We went outside and they immediately moved to the other one, and we could see them clearly. They were owls. They were little, but I was like, what the hell? Who's gonna die? Like what's going on?
Yeah. I've kind of, because of my experience with the owls, I started to research a little bit about how indigenous beliefs had transformed into some of this. And, some of the things that I learned was that the Spanish and I guess you say U.S. settler, people who were not from here, had started to create the bad omen about the owls because the indigenous people really used them as messengers from the other side, right? And so there came this warning about somebody's gonna die, but the truth is that, I mean, the other things that I've heard is that owls are also just messengers from the other side. They bring message of like change. They bring message of like, hey, there's something might come from the future,
Your way.
your way, and like things are gonna. And so like it never fails when something's changing for me and something's gonna like happen to me. The owls show up.
Yeah, and so that house actually was kind of like, because it was built in 1969, so it was an older house, and that was. So my mom does cleansings. She doesn't do it all the time. She just does them for family, and like whenever one of my friends is like, please,
Yeah.
So she's helped several people get new jobs. She I told her, like, I don't know what's going on, like I just feel weird, can you do a cleansing on me? And she was doing the cleansing on me, and when she was doing that, I just remember I said this in another episode, but I didn't add this detail because I forgot, but I felt like and I was wearing a chongo too. I felt like someone went like this. Oof. Like, because I felt it in my neck, and my mom was like, are you okay? Because I like twitched, and I'm like, yeah, I just felt the pull. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, she kept on going. That night, it was on a Sunday around 5 or something that she did that, and then they had to go back to Laredo. So I put the egg under my bed. And then in the middle of the night, I'm a very light sleeper, so I heard something, I guess, and I woke up, but I only like stood up halfway, and the room looked like it was alive. Like the walls were like moving and warping and everything. And I was like, what the fuck? And so in that room was a long room, and it had a sliding door, like a window sliding door. And outside you could see like the back, the yard.
Backyard, yeah.
And so I look and I see my grandma, who has been dead for a long time. Mind you, this was like on a Tuesday, 2 days after my parents had already left. And she was just sitting there outside, and she was like, and I'm like, what? What? Oh my God, I'm so sleepy. I'm so tired. Like I'm just dreaming.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here, Grandma? Like, what's going on? And she kept going like, and I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm so tired, and I could see him, and I like everything was the same. I could see my cat. He was there. He was moving. Like everything. It's like I woke up and I go back to sleep, and I'm like, the egg. I forgot to dispose it. She came back to tell me like,
Get rid of the
bitch,
egg.
get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like that, because it takes the energy. It takes that bad energies. Yeah.
And so I call my brother because my brother astral projects, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you were there in the like in between or whatever."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "How do I not do that?" Because I didn't like that feeling. It felt weird.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, like, a lot of the things that I do are informed by dreams, and it sometimes it's real weird. Sometimes it's a weird space to be in, like, and then like you like have these huge experiences in your dreams, and then you wake up the next day and you're just like back to normal, like, doing normal things.
Yeah.
Waking up, brushing your teeth, clocking into work, and then you're just like looking at everybody, just like, y'all have no idea what I've been through last night. Like, I was in this crazy dream last night.
I think you'd like to talk to my brother because he practices like astral projecting and all that stuff. And he sometimes tells us things, and I'm like, why were you in my house?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think more recently, like before, people who had experienced some of this stuff were kind of like, just like, it was a crazy concept. Like, what do you mean you astral project? But more recently, right? And I don't know if you've heard this, but more recently, there's been a CIA research that's come out about,
because they released all the papers.
Yeah, because they released all those papers. Yeah, so now people are talking about how they practice and how they prepare themselves for that, and then how some people, especially like communities of color, are designed for some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
They have that trait in their family lineage. So like, I think that the same thing goes for people who are experiencing psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They a lot of that comes from their lineage.
Because I'm sure a lot of people have experienced, like, you're thinking about a song and then your brother or sister sings that song out loud. Like,
you're like, what? Yeah. No. And that's something that, like, I feel like when it comes to like performing in music, because none of this, I never really ever separate none of my life about this, but is that there's a collective consciousness that we all share. We all share this collective consciousness. Like, and there's this one belief that, I don't know if this is really out there, but I'm just gonna say it. But there's some people believe that, like, you don't actually exist until we are around each other, right? And so, like, I came over here and I got to hang out with y'all, and but it could very be possible that, like, before this, like, I wasn't at all perceived, like, and because of that, I didn't exist, right? And so a lot of people call that like hacking the matrix or whatever. But it's like, I think, like, but because of that, people can imagine themselves or manifest themselves in other places, and they can do that, especially when they're at a moment of like meditation.
Yeah, and it's so that because I'm a little bit, not that I'm ignorant about it, but I know a little bit more about like witchcraft stuff and all of that stuff. But and alta magia, that's what they call like high witchcraft or whatever. That's why they call it reality pulling.
Yep.
And so what you do in those cases, if you guys ever have been to Catemaco or like have seen the documentaries or whatever, you pull the reality that you want for you. That's what they do. So
I love that. Yeah. And what was I going to say? Like a lot of people are kind of coming into that now with this whole, like, I'm manifesting, like, it's a practice of that. Yeah. And I feel like I do that I've done that as a person forever, but from something that I never let go as a kid was that I imagine myself in spaces that I want to be in.
Yeah.
And I literally will sit there and just be like picturing myself, like, for example, like opening the stage at Red Rocks in Colorado, right? And I'll imagine myself there, and I'm just like, okay, like I can see myself, and if I can see myself do it, like, it's, for me, it's a prayer or a wish that I'm asking for,
Yeah, that's why we have this rule in this house. The negative, sure, because we all do it. We're all negative or whatever, but nothing negative can leave your mouth.
Yes.
because you'll fuck yourself up.
I was just having this conversation. Because I'm very I pray a lot. I'm very careful about my prayers. A lot of times these days I say prayers only to be grateful and to be thankful.
Sorry, my cat is like trying to tear the door down, but keep going. Sorry.
And so and so like I don't try to ask for stuff in my prayers, because I don't like, what if I'm not prepared for that? Like, so I want to make sure that like myself mentally can imagine myself in those places first, and then I'll say I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. But until then, I'm just grateful for today, you know? But I also believe that people can curse themselves by saying negative things about themselves. Aside from the studies showing that, like, when you speak negative about yourself, you literally rewire your brain, and this is what causes like depression, anxiety, and that kind of stuff, and mental illness. So like, whenever I began to feel self-doubt, I practice self-motivation. When I tell myself like, oh, that I don't belong in that space, or like, you know, like, oh, for example, like, oh, they're gonna have me on this podcast interview. What am I gonna even talk about? Like, I don't even do that. I'm just like, 1, 2, 3, let's go. Right? I'm like, maybe I do have something good to talk about, but I automatically start telling myself positive things, positive self motivation, and for me, that's like what you said, like that alta magia.
Yeah.
You know, there's this one you mentioned. What's that anime that you mentioned?
Attack on Titan.
Yeah. Have you ever watched a Full Body Alchemy?
Yeah.
Or what is it? Full Metal. What is it called? Full Metal Alchemy. Okay. One thing that I love about that show, and I don't watch a lot of anime, but one thing I love about that one, and I watched that one, is that they talk a lot about alchemy.
Yeah.
And for me, like, that is
alta magia.
Yeah, it's alta magia, right? It's original witchcraft. It's witchcraft. It's, you know, it's the, like, it is our reality. It's our reality. We are a product of that type of alchemy.
And that is the closest media example that we have to alta magia.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's so crazy.
It's like hand signals, drawings, right? Like things on the
Rune
ground.
magic.
Yep. And then the other thing too is that one of the first thing that I loved about it was that the spirit embodying the armor, right? Like there was like it was like haunted armor, but it's his brother, but it's like haunted armor.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, like this is like, this guy basically has a relationship with the spirit. That's his brother, but he has a relationship with the spirit, you know?
Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of us as Hispanic girls that got the quinceañera doll, most of them were haunted. They watched you sleep for sure, because mine did.
Yes. No, I feel like if you ever go to a haunted doll museum, that's the majority of the dolls that are in there. They're like the quinceañera dolls. It's just like, bro, people are just collecting these quinceañera dolls from other kids. Yeah, that's crazy.
I had mine, and
that.
I grew such a bond to it because, and I mean, I'm a very empathetic person, so I would see my doll and it would like move and whatever, and I would just be like, "It's okay, baby girl, you're pretty," or whatever. I would just talk to it, right?
Maybe brush your hair.
Yeah,
you know,
and
like...
so one time, I don't know what happened, but it fell down and it broke, and I was so heartbroken. I had a little ceremony for it, and like we buried it or whatever. But that motherfucker would move.
Yeah. It's funny because my cousins had a Ronald McDonald doll that they thought was haunted. And
Ronald, that's
Ronald McDonald doll.
creepy.
Yeah, super creepy. Yeah. And it's funny because I still dream about the haunted closet in that house. Like I sometimes will have dreams about it. And I'll have dreams about my uncle who's passed away already. And I'll dream of him like, he'll be like snore, because I remember I used to go into his room and he would be snoring, and sometimes I'll have dreams where he's in the room and he's snoring and I'm like there as a kid. I'm like right back there, and it's like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? I'll wake up and I'll be like, am I crazy? Why in the world am I going back there? Does anybody else experience these types of things? Like I'm literally like, I'm jumping timelines in my dreams. and I'm like, does anybody else think about this? And then I'll ask people, I'm just like, do you dream? And people are just like, I don't know, I don't dream. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm
you
crazy.
don't dream?
Yeah.
So well, let me refill.
Yay.
I've said this before in other podcasts, in other episodes. Sorry, I have recurring nightmares. Like it's not the same nightmare, but the scenery is always the same place. It's my aunt's house. She has this big ass 2-story house, and her lot is humongous. So it's so big that she has a whole ass trailer in her backyard, and there's still so much space.
Wow.
I've had dreams about the Hat Man, about the devil, witches, people possessed. Like
how many dreams of the Hat Man have you ever had? Is that the recurring dream you said?
No. The recurring part of the dream is her house.
Oh, okay.
It's always
but
her
like
house.
in those dreams you'll experience those entities.
Yeah.
Oof.
And mind you, my grandma lived with her for a while too. So she would do her cleansings there. So I understand the why, but I don't understand why to me because I didn't live there. But if you see on season 1, episode 1, my cousin Lalo did live with her for a while, and I did experience ghosts there, and he also experienced a lot of paranormal activity there.
Wow. I have recurring dreams in places that I've never visited before, but I have seen the Hat Man in my dreams.
Yeah, me too. Go to what is it? Season 2, episode 1, and I'll link it down here because my friend Elisa, I thought she was talking about the Hat Man, but she doesn't know. She experienced this when she was in Oaxaca. No, not Oaxaca. It's because her grandma is indigenous to Coahuila. And so she goes over there to build her summer home or her winter home, right? And she was over there one time, and they were crossing like this little bridge. Their community is literally a little pueblito in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I wonder where it's at because I have roots in Coahuila like that too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, and I've heard her and her grandma talking in their native language, and I'm like, can you put subtitle?
Yeah.
So it's really cool. But she was telling the story about how they encountered this man in a horse. He had a hat, and it was just a dark entity, and they were like. But link below if you want to hear the whole story.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah, I love that. The Coahuila is a magical space.
Mm-hmm. Pueblo mágico.
Yeah, yep. And it's recently, I recently saw a video, and that's something that I've been doing the most recently with my podcast because I haven't done a lot. But like if you follow my social media, like my Joaquín Muerte page, I always repost videos, especially the stuff that people see in Mexico, right? Because for me, there's something special about uncharted territories like Mexico. Mm-hmm. And so there was a video of like a little monte in Monterrey. It was like a little neighborhood, and people had been saying that they had been seeing this light trace around the monte, and finally somebody caught it, and so there's video of it, of this little like fire hopping around,
like a wisp.
Like a little, it's like a little, and it's hopping around the mountain, and like we're talking about like, you know, it isn't just like a tiny hill. We're talking about this is like, it takes 15 minutes to get to one side, that kind of thing. Like it's a walk. The walk is not just like an easy walk, and so you see this little like fire kind of going. I mean, you just see it traveling, all hopping around, spinning around the going behind it and everything. So you can tell that it's not, and it's like people had been talking about that for years and had never been able to catch it on camera.
Damn, that's so funny because so I told you my grandma is mainly from Saltillo, and so she would tell me when I was little, like, oh yeah, we have like witch conventions and we all get together, and some of them like shapeshift or what, but to her it was like really casual. And so recently I was listening to this podcast. It's called Relatos. It's in Spanish. I don't remember the name of the host, but I'll put it here. And he was talking about Saltillo and that there's this place called La Biznaga.
Yes.
Where they all get together.
Yes,
And I'm
I've
like,
heard this before.
Grandma, what the hell?
Dude, no, I mean, there's, especially in our cultura, there's so much gathering of witches. And I don't know if I don't consider myself to be a witch or a brujo. And I don't know if I'm not ready to take that kind of like
responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's like new generation stuff because I mean, I don't know. I see like witch talk and all that stuff, and like people are practicing. And like if you watch the newer like documentaries from like Catemaco and like Unicornio Negro, or like all the other shaman and brujos and brujas and, you know, brujo mayor or whatever, they're living it now.
Yeah. There's this one really good documentary that I watched on the Santa Muerte, and there was a really cool conversations with some of the brujos from there, and they do live a very interesting life.
And that's so funny that you mentioned that, because last year I was supposed to go to a Misa Negra with my cousin, because they host them at their house.
Wow.
A bunch of stuff happened that day that I couldn't go. Car didn't work. Other stuff happened. Accidents, just things.
So what's your take on that?
That I wasn't meant to go.
It was meant to go.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel like that happens to me sometimes, especially when I'm going to visit like haunted places. Like it'll be where I'm not meant to be there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one of them is that, you know, the car all of a sudden is not turning on. Or like, you know, so here's this one. I toured with a small band, and I was playing the drums for them throughout the little tour in Texas, and they ended in Waco. And I decided to take after we got done at 12, I was going to drive back home. I was going to get home like at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I was already prepared for it. I had a lot of coffee. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I wanted to see in Waco was the Branch Davidians area, right? That where what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name, but
we'll put it here.
Yeah. But anyway, the Branch Davidians were that whole cult that, you know, they were like this big gun carrying cult that and they burnt, the whole place burned down. And I wanted to go see it. Right. So I said, okay, let me put it in the maps. And sure enough, there's a little notch for it in the maps and stuff. And you can drive out there. It was like 20 to 25 minutes from where I was, downtown Waco. Mm-hmm. And I start driving that way, and I started noticing my car was hesitating a little bit. I'm just like, what? And I was like, so I kind of was just like, okay, Creator, if you don't want me to be out there, like, please give me a sign and I will turn around. Like, I'm okay with not going. I would love to see this place, but if I'm not meant to be out there because the energy is crazy, because I believe places experience trauma and that bad energy will tether to you, you know? And so like, you know, I was kind of like, okay, whatever, just let me know. And so like, you know, I was just driving and I'm just like, okay, I'm going, kind of just like that, like, okay. Yeah. And then,
here I go.
1, 2, 3. I'm like halfway there and I'm starting to like get into the area where, and then like, I'm like, okay, Creator, I'm at this point where you can either give me a sign or I'm going to get myself there. And I turn this corner, right? First of all, that area of Waco is creepy. And so I'm like driving through there. You can kind of tell this. I'm like, the houses are looking a little rough and there's small porch lights and stuff going on. And
certain type of flags raised in the
yes. There is that vibe. There is that vibe, like Confederate flags and that kind of stuff. And then so like I turn this corner into this little like, and all the streets are like tall grass and trees. And I turn this corner, and right when I turn this corner, there was this massive owl. When I say massive, it was like the size of a big dog. It was like this big. Like, what's your camera? Right here, it's like this big. And I was like, oh, like I freaked when I saw it. I was like, oh, and then it kind of went like, and I jumped in front of the car, and it like took off because I was pulled, and I kind of slowed down when I saw it, right? And I said, I'm turning around, man. David Koresh. And I just turned around. I was too scared, dude. I got scared. And I'm not normally scared, but dude, that stuff's like racist stuff scares me because that's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit, dude.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they will cut you open. They will cut you open and shape you into a freaking dish
Or a lamp.
Yeah, or a lamp, yeah. Or what is he wearing?
A leather
apron,
vest.
yeah, like a
leather vest. Apron, yes.
Leather vest, a biker vest.
Yeah, no, but that is crazy. I mean, if there was ever a sign, that was a sign.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I don't play about my owl signs. I'm like, if I see an owl sign, I'm like, hey, all right, I will not play. I trust the owl sign. But that was a big owl.
Damn,
and I was like, and I'm like, okay, we're in an area where big owls live. But like, I mean, that was a big fucking owl, man. I was just like, I'm turning around. And I literally stopped right there. The owl flew off and I turned around. I was on a bridge and everything. I was like, man, it was starting to get dark too. And anyway, I didn't get home till like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning that night. And
you're like,
I was just like, I was like, I'm so glad to be home, man. When I hit the San Antonio outskirts, I was just like, whew, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it is scary. It just gets scary out there. I myself, I'm kind of so I just had my sister-in-law in the podcast, but we were driving to New Orleans, and so Steven and I were sleeping in the back, and she was driving. My brother-in-law was in front of me. And she starts yelling, "Ghost car, ghost car." And I'm like, what the hell? Half asleep. I don't even remember what color this car was. But half asleep, I look out the window. There's these two people driving this vintage ass car. Bags, like it was like a burlap sack over their neck, over their face, but it was fitted. They looked like mannequins or whatever, and they were both. It looked like a man and a woman because one was a little bit more bulky and the other one was petite, and he was just like,
what the hell?
No motion, no nothing.
Like whereabouts?
Where were we? Like
I-10 going to Louisiana.
Yeah,
but y'all were already in Louisiana. Or were y'all like in between?
We were like between Houston.
It was like what?
Okay, tell me your story because I have a story to tell.
Well, no, that was it. We were watching it, and as soon as I was, because they were right next to me. Like,
it was San Antonio to Houston, but like right in the middle.
Yeah. Dude, it's such a strange little area. It's a strange little area.
Mind you, the guy the male presenting was like, and the female presenting one, because she was petite. They were also wearing like gray suits or something gray, like very, very clinical. I don't know how to explain it. Like it was just so uniform.
Yeah.
Both of them were like wearing the same burlap sack. It was fitted.
Uncanny.
Yeah, it was like uncanny valley. Like it was crazy. And she was just like no motion. They had the holes for like the eyes and in like a line on the but they were right here, right next to me. So whenever because they were just driving like slower. I guess we were on the faster lane, so we were going faster. They were behind us and I couldn't help but like fucking like turn around.
Yeah.
And the light from like a 14-wheeler was behind them. And you could barely see their silhouette. It was so weird, dude.
Dude, so that little area. Okay, there's a couple of historical points I want to make about that area. Right, one, that the areas between Houston and Louisiana, right, the outskirts of Texas, there's a lot of what they call the sundown towns, right?
Yes.
So like some of those areas have been known for like, you know, you don't stop in these parts of town because, you know, like, you know, if you're, you know, this a intentionally racist towns, right?
Yeah.
And so my dad was a railroad driver, and he was working in Houston for many years. And one time when we were growing up, he took me to witness a Klan rally that happens in one of those sundown towns. So I got to see like an actual Klan rally like in motion, right? And so that was an extreme experience. But so my stepdaughter goes to school in Atlanta, so we would travel through Louisiana to get to Atlanta, and it's a like 16-hour drive. So like that is a solid like 8 hours of the drive, because Texas is so hard to leave. But anyway, we were driving back one time, and it was just me and her. And it was like one of those Atlanta trips that I went over there, I flew over there, and then we rented a car and I drove back, or something like that, right? Anyway, we're like getting towards Houston, and we're like in between when it comes to like that Louisiana and Houston, right? And I was like, we need to get gas, you know? So I said, okay. So I'm like trying to find the area like to get gas, and so like we keep passing these little towns, and I'm just like, no, let's keep going. And so at some point I'm like, okay, we have to stop. So like I get to a store. And we go into the store, and the store is open, right? So I'm like knocking on the door because I'm trying to get in. They won't let me in. I'm knocking on the door, and I can see people in there, and I just see the owner kind of looking at me, kind of like, and I'm just like, gung, 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 like, let me in. I'm just like, I need gas. And the guy just like, and then I was like, what? So then I like look into the store, and there's a person holding it up. There's literally somebody holding it up in the store. So I was just like, oh crap. So like I kind of like backed away, kind of like, okay, let me back away. And so then I just hear like I don't know what it was that I start to hear like gunshots, and like and the energy was really heavy, right? So then like I'm like, okay, either way I need to get gas. So like I'm like, let me go to the store across the highway, right? So like I jumped back into the road, and I go across the highway, and I go to that corner store. And sure enough, there's like it's like 2 a.m. or something. There's a lot of crazy energy. Like there's people walking around. Like there's people like all messed up. Like the guy.
What is going on?
I know. I was like, what the hell is going on? And so then I'm telling my stepdaughter, I'm like, dude, the energy's weird out here. And so then I try to pump the gas, and it's just like, there's no gas. And so then I tell the guy, I say, hey man, I try to pump gas and no gas. And he's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you, because it was working out. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to pump the gas. And he says, why'd you cancel the thing? I'm just like, I didn't cancel it. And he's like, try it again. And he's just like, yeah, we're out of gas. And I'm just like, what the hell? So I'm just like, okay, let me go to the next one. So I go to the next one, and it's dead, but the gas pumps are working. So like I pump the gas. And sure enough, woo, like police start flying into the area, right? And this like the energy is really high. Like I'm seeing like homeless people like leaving the area, and like I've seen people on bikes. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, dude, this. And then, you know, like I'm not afraid of the hood. Like I grew up in the barrio, so like I'm not afraid of the hood. But there was something extra special about what was happening there, right? Okay, so then we jump onto the freeway, and I'm just like, I'm gonna take the turnaround here in a little bit because we were going the wrong way. And then I just see the sign that says to Houston, and I'm just like, what? And she was like, when did we turn around? And I'm just like, I don't know. And she was like, where is everybody? And we're like on the road by ourselves. And I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, dude, am I tripping? Or did like something, like, why are we lost here? And I was like, I thought we had to like go. So we were like, I was like, let me just turn around just to make sure that we're not going the wrong way, because it says that we're going to Houston. I said, but we were coming from we were going in the other direction.
We're going back.
Yeah. So I'm just like, this is weird. So like, sure enough, like I turn back around, and it says that we're going to Louisiana. So I'm like, so then I turn back around, and I'm seeing the store that was on like my right side, and I'm seeing it like back on my right side when I was, so like, I'm passing it by again, but now I'm going in the right direction. And me and her were looking at each other like, I'm like, what the hell? So then like we were driving, right? And then I just hear like this, and I look back, and this car's like tailgating me. So like I'm like, let me move over. It's like I move over, and the car moves over, and then let me move over. The car move over. So then I'm just like, dude. And so she's like, what the hell's going on? I was like, I don't know. I think we're being tailed, or we're being followed. So we're just like, I'm just gonna like drive at a regular speed. So I'm kind of just like driving at a regular speed, and at some point the car just kind of goes like it kind of like backs up, and then it just like, and then I don't see it anymore. It never passes us up. And I was just like, what? So we were both like, are we going the right way? What happened
Like,
to that
what
little
is
town?
going
Like,
on?
what happened to that little town? And then we were like, who was that? And it was just like creepy. Like, it was just like so much weird energy. And like, I mean, like, we were like not sleepy. Like, we were like, it wasn't like we were out of it. It was just like really, really strange. Like that. I felt like we were like lost. And then we were like actually on the right. And then like, it was like, I was like, where's Houston? And then at some point we get into the entrance of Houston. And then I'm just like, how did we get here? Like, I was just so lost.
I feel like even something like that, just from everything that was going on, it would like, even if you were tired, it would wake you up.
Yes. And let me tell you, our hearts were pumping. We were scared. We were scared that somebody was trying to hurt us. And then like when we went to that first store and we saw a place being held up, I had never seen anything like that. So like I was just like I got back into the car and she's like, how come we didn't get gas? And I'm like, the place is being held up. And so then she like looks into the place and you can see that there's people in there like this, and there's a guy like holding like the gun, and that guy with holding the gun. He looked at the window and he was going,
No, dude, that's crazy because so we were driving from a I don't even remember where we were driving from, but we were in the outskirts of Laredo. So there is and I'm gonna say that it was around the big flea market in Laredo, which is over there. Like if you're going to like McAllen or Zapata, no. Yeah, whatever. You go through there and you can get to
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like the flea market and you keep going. It's like where the big dumpster thing, like you could go throw your trash or whatever. So we were driving from over there. I think I remember now. We were at a cousin's ranch. We were there all day, go-karts, whatever, ranch stuff. We were coming back. It was really late. It was my big brother, my cousin, my little cousin, and I. We were coming back. It was super late. Some people were staying over there. We were like, you know what? We want to take showers. It's been a long day. We want to go home. We're driving back. And then my brother starts driving slow. I was on my phone, texting a friend, and I look up. We're inside a black smoke. And we were driving there for a while. We didn't know. There was no cars coming in, coming out. And the weirdest part is that the radio stopped working. We had a CD in. That's when cars took CDs. We had a CD in there. It stopped working. We tried to put the radio on. It wouldn't work. Our little flip cell phones weren't working. Like, we didn't know what the hell. Like, the lights of the car were like right here, smoke. Like, we couldn't see anything. And we were just driving. I think we were in there for like 30 minutes. And it might as well have been a ranch that was burning rubber or
trash. Yeah.
But it was dark. And I will say, we were more than 30 minutes away from civilization. But it was like 30 minutes, boom. The Conquer Hills area by the Little Sac area. I'm sure people who live in Laredo will know, but it's not that close. It's not that close. And it was like, bloop.
Like out of nowhere.
We were there and we were like, what?
Did we just like drive through a time warp or something? Yeah.
And you can ask my brother, like we were like, what? It didn't seem right.
Yeah. Have you seen those videos where like those workers they're like working on the inside of a tunnel, and they're like driving their trucks into this tunnel, and there's like this weird like kind of a clear bubble like bubbling up in the tunnel, and the guy's like, what the hell's happening? And it's like this like it's like this pulsing bubble, and it looks like if it's like a time warp piece. And the guys are just like, we're not going to drive in there. And these guys are capturing this on video. Like, it's all captured on video. And it's like old video. It's not like brand new video. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's just like, I'm a huge believer in some of that stuff. Like, I believe that there's a lot of magical spaces, especially along the border, like going. in any directions of the border, like Eagle Pass to like something that I the little feeling that I get whenever I'm getting into those areas is I get like a little like nervous, like not like majorly nervous, but like there's something like I feel like in my heart that I'm just kind of like this is a little strange, like this place feels strange, you know. Especially when you start to get close to the borders, like when you're like getting close to the bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's energy is really strange there.
Yeah, if you're sensitive to those things, you can feel it.
Yeah, definitely.
Damn.
Definitely. You know, this is one story that I've never really told, but I feel like this is something that like I experienced as a younger kid. So like when I was about, I was involved with this like these. I grew up with a lot of like little gangster kids, right? And in the barrio there was a lot of like, you know, some of those homies.
Malandros.
Yeah, man. It was like the homies, man. It was like the vatos in the neighborhood, and we would always hang out and do a bunch of stuff. And like one of the things that like, you know, when I was younger, like 16, 17, like we used to like smoke a lot of weed. And when I was like hanging out with these guys, like I'm very emotionally sensitive. I don't know how to say that, but like I can't get really hella stoned because like I'm not in a good place, right?
Because the feelings get contagious.
For me, well then other people, they like can smoke and they can relax their whole body and just be chilling. Like, yeah, I'm like, not me. Like for me, like I'm very aware. And so anyway, we got like a new, back in the day, the weed wasn't that good, right? So like you would get like these giant bags of like really crappy weed, right? So we'd be like, oh man, I got myself like a QP, you know, and it was like all dirty, you know. Anyway, so like we would drive out in Del Rio, we would drive out to the Lake Amistad. And I remember like we were talking about rolling blunts, like, you know, back then you roll these blunts. Back then, people are still doing this to this day.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I remember going out there and I was just like, we were gonna go, and it was during the day. We were gonna go to the certain part of Lake Amistad, and we were gonna smoke a blunt in this beautiful scenery surrounded by the lake. And there's no people out there, there's nobody to bother you, there's nothing to worry about. It's one of those places where you can just relax, tell funny jokes, chill with your homies, and be stoned. And so like I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out there. So like we're driving out there all together, where all the homies are like, you know, everybody's like, you know, breaking stuff up and whatever, and we're like out there, people are like rolling the
prepping.
It's all the prep work. Everybody's just hanging out, and you can kind of like, everybody's listening to gangster rap and shit, and everybody's kind of grooving, everybody's getting in the mood to like
summer night.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was like exactly, everybody's getting in the vibe, right? So we get out there, right, and you get out there and you kind of jump through the little, and then you get out of your car, you park your car. And then you start to walk a little bit, and then you're like in the middle of like a big rock kind of an area, and then there's like the big Lake Amistad, and it's beautiful out there. And it's just surrounded by beautiful nature. If you've never been to Lake Amistad, it's gorgeous out there. And so it's like not even, it's like around this time of the day. 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 p.m. It's not, the sun is not setting, it's just not, it's like, it's about to, right? So we're all hanging out. You can kind of see some of the stars in the sky, but it's not like a starry night. It's still duskish. And so everybody, they're rolling, right? And people are talking or rolling. And so I'm just kind of like, I'm just like looking in the sky and stuff, right? And I started to notice that I could see that there were perfectly circular star formations. And I'm just like, anybody see that? And everybody's just like, bro, relax. Right? You know how everybody's just like, dude, we're about to, bro, honestly, don't start.
We're about to get in the sauce.
Don't start. Down. Yeah. Okay, all right. So I'm just like, all right, so I won't say nothing, right? So then I'm just like, but there's one right there too. So I'm noticing that there's 3 of them. And I'm like, they're perfectly round. And there's no such thing as those types of star formations.
No, because if you really focus, even if you look at them from like a telescope, their sparks are ever exploding.
Yeah.
So,
and so then the other thing too is that like there are no star formations that are perfect circles.
Yeah.
They're shaped like what we are familiar with.
A galaxy.
Yeah, or even like the Little Dipper, right? Like that's a very typical star formation. So like I'm looking at these stars, and they're like, they're like in these perfect circles.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
like, we hadn't even started smoking. Like I had never got to me. It hadn't gotten to me
sober.
yet. I was sober. And so like I was just like, dog, I was like, look at the sky. I was like, these stars are perfect. And so like they were just like, yeah, whatever. Right? So then like I was kind of just like,
something ain't right.
I remember I was like, this is already making me nervous. So I just like remember like taking a little puff, and I was just like, here. And I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm good. And so then like I didn't really get high. I remember, like, so I just was like really nervous about it. And then like, okay, fast forward. I remember spending some New Year's 2020. It was like right before the pandemic. We went to New Year's to a friend's house over in this area. And I remember I was like, we were outside, and we can hear the fireworks popping. And I look into the sky, and I could see the perfect star formations. And I was just like, I ain't gonna say nothing. I was like, I ain't tripping. And
you're so, like, here we go
again. Here we go, all paranoid. And so then I was like, so we were like, it was like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, dog, it's time to go to bed. Like, let's get out of here. So like, I'm leaving. So we're like saying goodbye to everybody. And so like, we're walking outside, and we're like, all right, it was so good talking to y'all, man. We're shaking, giving hugs or whatever. I look into the sky, and there is literally like a bright ball of fire flying across the sky. And so I go, everybody look at that. So it's like 4 of us. And everybody goes, what? And then we're like, oh shit. And everybody saw it. Everybody saw this bright ball. It looked like a campfire, like the shape of a campfire, like in the sky. And it was like flying like this. Now it wasn't like a piece of paper. It wasn't like dissolving. It was a perfect fireball. And it was moving across the sky. It was huge. So then we were just kind of like, and we watched it until like you just couldn't see it no more. And we were like, what the fuck was that? And everybody was tripping, right? So then like everybody was like, oh, like we could say that this year we saw a UFO together. And we're like, yeah, UFO together. So then I was just like, anyway, cool. So then pandemic hits. We're all stuck at home. I used to take my dog to go walk at the park, right? Because that was like the one thing that you can do there. You can be outside and you walk your animals, go walk your dogs. So like I would go walk my dog. And I was on the phone with my mom. I was like talking to my mom, and I'm like, yeah, I'm walking the dog, blah, blah, talking. And sure enough, man, this fire shows up. And it was like this same exact fire I could see in the horizon. And I'm telling my mom, I'm like, mom. I was like, I can't explain this to you, but I've seen this fire in the sky before, and I'm seeing it again. And so then like I'm telling her this thing, and I'm talking to her about it, and she's like, okay, mijo, whatever. And I'm just like, so then like,
vaya con Dios.
Yeah, she's just kind of like, yeah, like that's your experience, like whatever. And I'm just like, okay, because there's no proving it to them, but nobody. So I meet this lady that lives in the area, and she was just like, oh yeah, I see it. She said, actually, one of those fires started my back house on fire. And she said, there's a traveling fireball in this community. And I was like, what? But I didn't know how to explain what I had seen, but this woman knew exactly what I was talking about. And she was telling me how that fireball, or a piece of that fireball, came down, literally touched her back house, lit it all on fire, and then went back up.
What the
hell? And I have the recordings of that conversation like on my phone. I haven't published it yet, but now they're talking. Now there's more than one person who says that there's a phenomenon of a ball of fire that's like a mischief fire, like a little mischievous fire.
Whenever you do, let me know. I'll link it in this video.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How do you explain that to your insurance? Like, what the
I
hell?
know exactly. What the thing you think of,
dude? But like, that's so crazy because I don't know if you remember. Oh, there was a long time ago. Las Brujas de Monterrey. When it was they used to look like little nuns. They were like they called them Las Brujas de Monterrey, like the Monterrey witches, but they were considered aliens by Jaime Maussan. And there, along all of this that was going on, there were also fireballs or fire things in the sky, burning houses on fire. And this was happening during the 90s.
Wow. There's definitely a link there.
Yeah.
There's definitely a link there.
Because what is it, like 2 hours? 2 hours away from Texas?
Yeah, we're like I know. And then this is all the same area. Like if you were to not put any borders around any of the cities of the Mexico, we're all in the same area. Like it all looks the same. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, if you want to learn more about any of these crazy happenings, UFOs, or anything, please go ahead and give our man a follow, Joaquín Muerte. Again, I'll link everything below. And thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. Do you want to add anything?
Just follow me up over on Joaquín Muerte on Instagram. But also, if you want to follow my project, follow Joaquin and the Glowliners. And find me out in the community. I'm always doing community work. I'm in and around the east side all the time.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much.